Hey guys, still here and welcome back to Mud Fight, our favorite 10v10 tactical map, although some people appear to really hate it. Now, it's going to be another one of those seconds from disaster episodes, which means that first I show you what is definitely a landslide victory, and then we're going to take a neutral look, so a look from the neutral viewer and see exactly how that came to be. For now, we are following player 4. And player 4 is in one of these tactical games where you have even fewer points than normal. So he has really little to play with. And you can see that in the form of 2 AMX-10 RCs and 1 VAB VDAA. That is all that he gets. And yes, of course, he does get a CV. There's no fob. There's just 1 fob from Bias over here, and that is all. These low-level tactical games, they really make you pick the best unit for the encounter. Or rather, that's mostly what they require. That does not, however, mean that that is what people pick. Now, over on the right, bunch of infantry. This is Peshtero. No heavy tank on the right flank. But then again, you have so few points that actually buying a heavy tank... So think M1A2, STRV 121, Leclerc, Leopard 2A5. It's going to be hard. You very probably don't have the points for that. It slightly depends on your price of your CV. We have Eradication going this way, Peshtero there, Kamata here, P4. So that's player 4 set up his own marker saying I'm going to go here with Reconnaissance and Light AA. Bailly is going towards this little village here. And we got Royal Fake Canar going here on the left, trying to send his CV there. Which... where is his CV, actually? Oh, here it is. Airborne. So, very few units, very little deployment. But then again, the same goes for the enemy team. So you might go looking at this and go, oh shit, we got so few forces, how are we ever going to win this? Well, keep in mind, the enemy has the same issue. Alright, the Humvees rush forward, and they are about to capture this town. Now note the infantry veterancy. You got a couple of Kutai, not the Kutai 90, just the Kutai standard, but at the very least they are elite. So this should help them fight off enemy infantry. At this range, you could argue that you don't even need any heavy anti-tank weapons, because the tanks are going to be sitting over there, over here potentially, and that is going to be way outside the range of any standard anti-tank weapon. We see a couple of T-55s, a UAZ is coming in, a couple of BMP-1Ds. Note their veterancy as well from Omega Red. He did not go for the highest veterancy units. Not that it's going to come back to bite him, because they won't be around for long enough. But please, if you're going into a 10v10 tactical, especially one of this type, make sure you upvet your units. Bring a specialized deck, use that veterancy bonus, and make sure that your units are the best that they can be. AMX-10 RCs are having a bit of a fight with the BMP-1Ds, dropping off the Moleeman 90. Kutai 90 are there as a welcome wagon, and they are probably very happy that the AMX-10 RCs just killed the BMP-1Ds, because those do come with grenade launchers. Had the Moleeman pushed forward, just outside their transports, then the transports from over here could have provided fire, and that would have been a lot of grenade launcher fired for the Kutai 90 to sustain. Now we lost the tank, or Red lost the tanks over there. One of the MX-10 RCs took a hit and lost 9 of its hit points, which is unsurprising because these only have 3 frontal armor. So it's really maybe even quite lucky that he survived. The first Red 4 player surrenders, Retaron. Let's have a quick look on the far right. Note how there is no heavy tank here. Nothing. We got Voskamjäger, we got 1 HGM, a Panzerbill for recon, an SDRF 9040, which is definitely lethal against enemy infantry, but no tank. The enemy does have a tank. It's a T-72 command tank. 160 points, 14 frontal armor, 16 AP, 50% accurate. The only thing that they have to stop that is this. The RBS-56. So I imagine that Eradication at this point might be a little concerned about the safety of this flank. But keep in mind that the enemy team has the same issue. The enemy does not have too many units either. RBS-56, get a missile off. Copa takes a lot of damage, but if the Copa fires again, and misses, then the RBS 56 can get another shot off. Had they hit this tank, like if the T-72 had actually fired accurately, he probably would have killed them. Dead is not the end, surrenders. No, dead is not the end, but apparently surrendering is, so he left the game. That's another red for a player out. Surprisingly, the T-72 died, but that might have had something to do with the Hornet. RBS 56 survived. And unfortunately they did lose that Panzerbill recon, but that does come at the cost, for them, of a heavy command tank. So that should make their life a little easier on this flank. Over on the left, we got the VAB going towards a potential reconnaissance spot, although recon is not something that this thing does very well. Sure, it can spot airplanes, it can spot helicopters, but spotting actual units is tricky. In a normal... well, let's say normal tactical 10v10, it would have been harder to pull this move off, because you couldn't just drive in here, because the amount of infantry inside this area of the forest would probably be far greater. So since he is not actually at risk of that many units, he should be fine. AMX, the AMX is taking a hit from the MiG-29-912, that's the napalm bomber, wipes it out. So, in case you don't know what that bomber does, it drops HE first, which then explodes into napalm. Extremely effective if you want to get rid of infantry, and also light vehicles like an AMX-10RC. So, the points are not looking great. Blue is sitting on 435, and red is sitting on 45. They have killed almost nothing. One thing that they killed was the AMX-10RC, and then they killed something for 15 apparently, or... I don't know, multiple times 5. And now we have red sitting at 80. But keep in mind that red already had a couple of people leave. Now, there is something going on here. We don't quite know what. But Bice put up a defense marker saying, guys, we need to pay attention here. Bice, and this is weird, but it works, is using his command helicopter as a reconnaissance helicopter. It's a really expensive reconnaissance bird, but it works, because these things now have very good optics. And we seem to have the culprit right here, a Super Puma. So something's going to come out of this area, and we need to know exactly what it is. And we need to know exactly how to fix it. There's another Super Puma showing up here, Elite. It is armed with a machine gun, and it does have eyes on the Führungsgruppe over here. The Führungsgruppe are returning fire, but... they might not have the firepower to take this thing down before it kills them. Jäger 90, seemingly not really interested in helping out. Just sitting over there while the Führungsgruppe... oh, there we go. Führungsgruppe are... I think they're in the clear for the moment. Yeah, they're still firing back. Oh, hold fire and run away. Jäger pushing back. Now doing their damage, and there goes the Super Puma. Alright, so he's done. That thing survived, or that command infantry survived on 1 of his 5 hit points. Now there's another Super Puma down here. This might be the same one, but I'm not sure. At the very least we know what came out of them. Special Forces. Sea Harrier is now going to be joining this fight. Takes a kill for 20 points. The big question is, did that thing drop off the infantry? Or were they still loaded? So I usually watch the crash site, and if you don't see any points going up there, it's either the infantry survived or already got offloaded. Sometimes you see the helicopter get shot, and then you say 20 points, and then it crashes and you see plus 35. And then you know that you also killed the occupants. Now blue's doing pretty damn good on the right flank. We have an ATGM unit, of course, a transport here and there, and an MI4A, which is an interesting pick. It's pretty good at suppressing enemy infantry with those 57mm rockets, but aside from that, it'll do very little damage against anything that has armor. But anything that has armor, they are pretty hard to find in this game mode, because armor comes at a price. There goes another... oh, narrowly avoided. MiG-29 survived. There's another Mi-4A coming to the front line. Rotaran, who already left. So now his tanks are being commanded by, I think, Strike. He's pushing forward. And with Kutai being driven slightly farther back, and the Shayetet not exactly in a position, the T-55s are just casually moving up. Keep in mind that these things are almost as blind as a bat. Poor optics. So the infantry and everything else has a very good spotting advantage over them. Otherwise, not so much. Now there is something else happening over here. That was a dead helicopter. You don't just have helicopters dying in the back of your lines. There's something still out there. Infantry seems to have been spotted. Where are you going? Yeah, he's going for the BTR 50 with mortars. Which I think is really not a priority. I would absolutely want to take these things out before I ever take a shot at the BTR. Because these are more of a threat. They can take out a unit, especially a more pricey unit, in one shot. Similar to these. And these are, again, taking fire from the mortars. Now it's trying to figure out what exactly is out here. Do they have long-range arties being asked? I'm still waiting for the dash of the AMX-10 RCs. Once these things kick off, they can do 150 on road, so they might seem to be pretty far away, but they can be over here pretty much in a minute or two. Maybe even less. Now the enemy apparently does still have some transports. I'm not sure. Yeah, there's the infantry. 30 Motostrelki. Shayatet versus 30 Motostrelki. This is going to be a pretty tricky fight for the Shayatet. Sea Harrier tries to pitch in, but does not get line of sight on the infantry, which is probably what it was going for. Akiyo Marushiki is now here to help out, which is an interesting pick for this flank. I think that if you're playing a Japanese deck, like I think Kiyu is, I wouldn't pick a Akiyo Marushiki over here. I would let my infantry take out the tanks, the T-55s, and then bring a Nana Sanshiki, of Nana Yonshiki G, the one with the grenade launcher. That over here would have been far more effective. Now the French are on the move. The VAB, the AMX-10 RCs, they are going to start a party over here in Bravo. Red is currently sitting on 500 points, and blue on 940, so they definitely are catching up. Again, a couple of units which are just not as veteran as you would expect. BRDM-2 Malyutkas, they're not terribly accurate as is. Their range is not great. But then at least upvet them to make sure that they can be, well, reasonably accurate instead of this. Fab Mode sends in a T-80U, which immediately comes under attack of a Hornet. The Hornet unfortunately dies, but not before doing pretty good damage to the T-80U. And over here, Red in general seems to be pushing somewhat. But I think they're going to be hesitant when they see that there's an ATGM Milan F3 in the position here. In the meanwhile, the other French units are taking no prisoners, taking 100 point kill here, another 100 point there, so they're probably wasting CVs. There is a VAB in case Red decides to spawn in a helicopter to counter this offensive, but really at this point there is very little that these guys can do. Sure, you could send the T-80U back, if it's still alive at this point, but it's going to be a pretty hard fight. This is interesting. This is really interesting. The reason why I'm pointing this out is that an EA6B Prowler is a 110 point unit, which is expensive in this game. I mean, this game mode, rather. And there probably isn't that much that you can reasonably target. If the enemy has 3 of these units, it's a lot. So let's say you were to kill all 3 of them. That would be a return on investment of 225 points for a 110 point plane. But you don't know if the enemy actually has 3 of these. And if he's paying attention to the rest of the map, he probably knows that there is also a Sea Harrier operating. And that is another seed plane. So he just bought a 110 point seed plane, which really is not required. Then again, of course I am... Did he actually lost it? Wow, that is unfortunate. These things usually have very good ECM. Anyway, it's easy for me to critique this because I wasn't actually in the battle, so I didn't have to command any units, I didn't have to control any particular vehicles, and with that I can focus more on what's happening all over the battlefield. Whereas normally you would probably be zoomed in like this, then hey, the area here is clear, I still have my... Seed plane, let's have a look at the other side. Not knowing that there already is a seed plane. At this point we're just mopping up. More and more of red starts to surrender. We have a couple of surviving command units, and they finally squashed the bug over here, which was another group of special forces, which ran all the way around the map, probably being dropped off by a helicopter about there, circled around and started making a couple of kills over there. Yang surrenders and the game is up. Now player 4 played a really good game there. He scored 1,079 points, lost 30. The losses were only the AMX 10. That was it. Kills. The BMP-1Ds first. The UAZ that came to capture the zone. A couple of infantry, a couple of tanks. The TO-55 Napalm was the one that just spawned in while they were neutralizing the enemy cap zone. Mudstocky 90, a Super Puma, interestingly. That was the Sea Harrier that did the run on the helicopter. Apparently, the Mi-17 was transporting a command infantry. So they did get a kill on that. But look at the amount of command vehicle kills that he got. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 command vehicle kills. So you could ask, did he really contribute that much to the battle, having killed 8 command vehicles? You can argue both sides. You can say, no, he barely actually killed any combat units. And you can say, well, yes, he actually did contribute quite a bit, because without command vehicles, you cannot capture anything. And if you don't capture anything, you don't get the points. And without the points, you're not going to be getting any more units. So in that way, yes, he did contribute. Now, let's open up the game again and see exactly what Red 4 had. What was Red 4 doing? How did they end up in the position that they did? So I'm going to keep it on neutral, so we can see both red and blue units. Let's speed it up. I want to see attack markers getting deployed. That's blue. This is red. He's going to go with the super heavy as soon as he gets the points. 2 light tanks for Brendryen. That's probably the T-55s. That's blue, blue. Not enough communication. I have a single mortar. I copy points for other. What? No idea. But they do start out with 2 mortars. Not necessarily a bad idea, but you would need quite a bit of reconnaissance. Now, you can already see a bit of a problem going up on the left. There's no reconnaissance. The T-72 is going off alone. And with medium optics against actual reconnaissance forces, you're going to have a pretty hard time. A Monkia is rushing forward. We've got the command vehicle going right through the middle. T-55 Igman, T-55 recon tank. A Kubem 4, interestingly. BMP-1Ds. We got that, or one of the special forces helos going over to the right. So this area is lacking recon, and this guy recognizes it. He says, we need recons. No, we need everything. We got no recon, no AA, no supporting infantry, nothing. So they are probably quite worried about the survivability of this tank. Infantry over here is being dropped off. I gotta say, I'm not sure where he was planning to go. Because you're never gonna get to this town. Especially not in the current situation. But overall, it's gonna be really quite hard to get there. Over here, the offensive immediately got stopped by the AMX-10 RCs. Which does leave the Moleeman 90 in a pretty uncomfortable position over here. They really only have one avenue of options, and that's to go back. Just follow the tree line and fall back. Now that's one Red 4 player quitting. Nice aggressive maneuvering over here with the Maglan. Interestingly, still not spotting the Monkia, but this thing has very good stealth, so they're gonna have to get quite close. Stop smoking and kill them. Yeah, that would be an interesting idea. Here is one of the Special Forces helos. There is another one going up. And in case you're wondering what this smothering of blue forces is, a 205 and a Lynx. That's all. But without infantry. Probably the ones that dropped off the Jäger and the Führungsgruppe, I think. Now, over on the left, Super Puma making progress. The RBS-56 is going to kill the tank, and if they do that, then this whole area has nothing, except for one Special Forces group. They also have one reconnaissance. Here comes the Hornet. Look at the little bird. Hornet takes out the tank. The Cub M4 fires back. Misses. No, does not miss, actually. Hits the helo, really? Hits the plane. No, it didn't hit the plane. I think these guys hit the plane. Because these do 4 damage, and this thing does 9. This does not hit the Hornet. Anyway, they have very little units over here. They can see what is coming at them, but they can absolutely not do anything about it. Then in the middle, they got the spotter, they got the Conquerors. What can they see? Very little. Interestingly, they can still see the ATGM. It's behind a line, but apparently not thick enough. Interesting. Putting up help markers here, so they know that something is happening in this forest. Which is pretty accurate, but the VAB is slightly further to the right. Now they have no large tube arty, no howitzers. They have one Nona and a Talak. But aside from that, I'm not really seeing anything that could have been a massive investment. And then again, you don't have the points for massive investments. Now there is something else that is happening over here. It's not exactly unit related, and yet it impacts it. Blue has Fox, Blue has Delta, and Blue has Alpha. Red only has Charlie. This is going to snowball, because this gives them a lot more income than Red currently has. So Red already started out pretty bad, and this is one of those things that just compounds over time. It's going to make it worse. Far worse. Another... Why am I seeing another recon unit here? I don't get that. You don't need a recon, you need a killer. You need something that does damage. Now, we do have something that does damage coming in. So maybe Bushman was thinking, I'm going to bring my own recon in case the Erics go down. And that's going to be the BTR-50. Something else that I'm quite curious about. How is the elite levels? See, for Blue, it's pretty good. I'm seeing veteran or elites, mostly. This guy's a regular. Yeah, pretty good, pretty good. All elites. KM200's regular. And then red. T55s. Low veterancy. Low, but then it's command unit low. Recon. Low. Medium. Low. Their mortars have more veterancy than the Rozvedka. M4s or MI4s, medium, low, low. Yep. Is it going to contribute directly to the result? Maybe. I'd say it definitely has something to do with it, because you're simply not going to be outputting as much damage, because your chances of hitting are not as good. Your chances of survival are not as good because you're not hitting. So you're going to be losing more units, you're not going to be killing enough enemy units, which then again, combined with everything that we've seen before, starts to compound and compound and compound. Now here's the Erics, which have an interesting target over here in the form of a command vehicle. They already killed another command bird over there, here. They're pushing here. And infantry going first, yes. So they are pushing. They could have won this fight and then they fall back. Why? They're pissing off a Himera transport. It's almost like they know the Shayatet are there. And they are just not pushing. Houston surrenders. It's just really interesting to see a Thunderbolt just come around. Note the Thunderbolt's veterancy level. It's elite. Sea Harrier, elite. Fat Mode surrenders. I guess he had other things to do. AMX-10 pushes forward, kills one command. Might kill the mortars while it's at it. And that is the game. So to summarize, a couple of things. Over on the left they had nothing. They had that one command tank, but no recon to spot for it. That really hurt them. Towards the middle, they had a couple of units, but they were apparently very aggressive with them, hoping to capture this town. It's, I'd say, in a standard 10v10 it's too ambitious, and over here it could be even more so. Over on the right, they tried to push everything down the road, and Blue's infantry really got there quickly because of their Hammer. Whereas the, sorry, that was the Humvees. Whereas the Red 4 units, the BMP-1Ds, they just didn't get there as fast as they, well, were needed to get there. So that caused them to get killed off. Of course, the AMX-10 RCs played a great game, doing some damage here and then skirmishing, flanking around and getting the kills there. And at this point, Red just had nothing left to actually put up a defense line. No spare helicopters. So that is another factor that contributed. And then the income. Foxtrot, Delta and Alpha. Tacticals require income. And without it, you're just going to be fighting, well, pretty much with one hand tied behind your back, because you don't have the numbers. And it's going to compound. So it's really, really tricky. And finally, veterancy. I keep hammering at this every game that I cover in tacticals. You need that veterancy. If you got a high value tank, you want it to have veterancy. You want it to recover from panic faster. You want it to be accurate. You want it to be survivable. A lower veterancy tank is just not going to be as good. So make sure that you bring a specialized deck. And I think that sometime way back in the day I did a video on it about which decks get what bonus. But you can also just see this in the game. If you want to go into a game like this, always think in advance, what sort of deck do I want to use? What sort of units do I want to use? If you want to be using, for example, the Kiyomarushiki, so the heavy tank, I would go with a Japanese armor deck, because it would give me one of these things at elite. If you want to go infantry, Shayatet for example, go motorized, and you're going to get more units. You won't have any real tank support, but then again, you don't have the points to buy one of those anyway. So make sure that whatever unit you pick has the best veterancy. And of course the enemy might figure out what you're doing, because hey, if it's a motorized deck or a tank deck, he's probably going to do this or that. But that's not always the case. And I can quickly quickly show that with one of my decks. Here, for example. This is a tactical Dutch-German deck for one of those 1985 games. Actually, this is not a great example. Tactical UK armor. You can even see that I'm not using all of my activation points, because I simply won't use them. Challengers. Yeah, I get 2 challengers at elite. So if you see a deck like this, you could go, okay, well he's going UK armor. So we're going to see Challenger 2s. Not necessarily, because I also have 1 Eurofighter. So you can sort of throw the enemy off by thinking, or by them thinking that you're going to be using an armor deck, and then you show up with 2 Eurofighters, which could really throw the enemy off their game, because they're going to go, okay, where's the Challenger? Where's the Challenger? There must be a Challenger. And then there's no Challenger. But there are, for some reason, 2 Eurofighter Typhoons circling around. So this is one of those ways that you can use the veterancy bonuses. So if you're going into a tactical, make a specific deck, not specifically nation or coalition. I usually go for a separate nation or a coalition. I don't go for a general NATO deck. But this is where it really becomes important. Motorized if you want to go infantry, armored if you want to bring a tank. Support, not really necessary. Although if you're going, for example, an anti-air build, then you want support, because that upvets your AA. You can go Marines, although you very rarely see them. The only time that I would think this is even useful if you're going into a Wonsan Harbor, which also comes with a naval variant. Then the Marines can help, because you get more naval slots, so you get more availability there. You get more options about what sort of unit you want to deploy. Mechanized, I usually don't use these if I'm going into a tactical, and that's because you only get 1 experience for units of vehicle and infantry, whereas if you're going motorized, you get them for infantry and recon, and these two usually work very well together. Come to think of it, actually, there is one time when I do think I use mechanized, and that's if I'm going USSR. That's when I'm going specifically for the BMPT, because then I can get those at veteran. And I think that there are very few other ways of getting these at a higher veterancy. Because if you were to go for a standard USSR deck, you probably couldn't do that. You probably get them at medium. Yeah, hardened. An armor deck could also work. But then again, if you're using an armor... actually, no, it could be a very good combination. Because if you're going armored, you could have a tank. It doesn't even need to be a superior tank. A T-72 base is actually pretty viable. Maybe a T-72A. And the reason that I'm saying that is because it has a decent bit of survivability, but also 4 HE on that gun. So enemy infantry does die very quickly. And then you back it up with a BMPT. Yeah, there you go. No, it doesn't come at veteran. Anyway, long story short, veterancy. Pick a specific unit type that you want to play with. Go into a game thinking, okay, I want to play exactly this unit. Like, for example, I want to play only the automatic, which is why I'm going in with a Danish support deck. It only has half of its potential activation points, but I don't need any more because I never use this deck in a standard 10v10. I only use them in 10v10 tacticals because I get automatics at veteran, and that's only because I cannot get them at elite. Anyway, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed the vid. I hope it educated you a little bit on the importance of using veteran units, or using units which have more veterancy. Let me know what your thoughts are down below in the comments, and as always, if you like my content, if this stuff makes your day, if you really look forward to it, then please help me out by supporting me on Patreon. Link down below in the description. And like I showed you this week, accidentally that is, you always see a list of upcoming videos in advance. So you know exactly what is coming up when, and what do you have to look forward to. Okay guys, that's it. I've been saying that for 3 times now. This is it. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you soon for the next one.